Hey guys, it's Sam.
And Andrew.
And we're here with Waz from Yacht Club Games to talk about Shovel Knight.
How are you today,
Hi.
Waz?
I'm doing really good. How are you guys?
Fantastic.
Very good. Okay, so I guess I'll start it off with the first question. My question is, when you guys started thinking of a game to make, did you originally want to create a love story for Nintendo? Or
I mean, basically, yeah. The idea was that Shovel Knight is born sort of out of the collective conscious of the team. So we all grew up playing, all those games. So we grew up playing Mario 3 and Zelda 2 and Mega Man and Castlevania. Like, so that's all like really in our blood. We still play them. I think the director Sean, his most played game on his 3DS or his like second most is Zelda 2. So it's like it's part of what we do every day. And yeah, Shovel Knight is a way for us to kind of embrace that and go back to a time where game mechanics were really the core of what made a game, and at the same time, kind of paying homage to what we really enjoyed, as kids playing games.
very cool.
I have a question.
Go
What
for it.
what kind of limitations did you guys put on yourselves to keep that NES feel?
So yeah, we pursued the NES feel as a way to keep the project within scope so that we could do it. There's only about half a dozen of us, so we really wanted to make sure that the game was something that we could accomplish as a team. And to do that, we thought, well, let's just do like an 8-bit sort of NES style game, but let's actually like take it seriously and make it feel like an NES game, like it's a contemporary of all those games. And so we tried hard not to make it like a parody game or like it's not referencing anything directly from the NES. Something that we kept saying throughout the production is that like no character will ever say, it's dangerous to go alone. Take this. Like that's like, not in the script very intentionally. And so we tried to sort of embrace the idea that Shovel Knight is a game that sort of should have existed during that era, but not be shackled by those hardware limitations. So a lot of things on the NES were like no widescreen; it was all 4:3. You couldn't have more than 8 sprites in a single scan line, or else they start flickering and looking ugly. Things would draw in on the side, and you could just see it as it's going on. So like, there's a lot of like little technical stuff and tricks that were done to make things work, but we didn't think that those added to the experience more than just kind of we're shackling ourselves. Like I say that a lot, but that's how it kind of felt, as like being stuck to the NES. And so we kind of embraced the idea that like you can make a game that feels like it's an NES game, but not necessarily, that isn't technically the same.
Yeah, because you guys didn't have to go through all of the hardships that they had to back in
Right.
the day.
Absolutely.
And also, it adhered to the NES color palette, which I thought was really
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
yes.
very pretty
We used
too.
that palette, but we didn't stick to it 100%. We have it's the NES color palette. It's like 64 colors or so, and like 8 of them or some crazy high amount are all the same color black, and so they're like it's really only an even smaller number of colors to use. But we have we use those colors to do the majority of the colors in the game, but we had like 4 instances where I needed more colors, and we needed a color for the darker, cooler shades and a darker, warmer shades, and we also needed a color for. I really tried to not use one of these colors, and that was the beige on Polar Knight's sheepskin. I tried really hard to find a replacement for that, but. In the end, I just couldn't, and it just needed to be there. It was like it's this cool, muted, like we needed something that was muted. And the thing is, the NES palette is all extremely vibrant and extremely saturated, and there's no way to mute any of those colors or find a muted color there. So yeah, we have one there, and then there's one more, and this is a result of us being a Kickstarter. We had a bunch of people that donated to have their faces in the game. And putting your face in the game meant we would pixel a little portrait of you, and you can see them all in the Hall of Champs. And there's a lot of people all over the world donated. And if you're not white, then it's really hard to do your face in using the NES palette. So I added a color for that to make room for that, because the NES palette is, like I said, it's very super ultra saturated, and it has way more blues than it has any business having, and people aren't colored blue. So
That's
Just
true.
to add a color to get that working.
I think you guys did a pretty good job at pulling it off. Ultimately, those really bright colors, those original colors, they did stand out in the game. So it did give us that nostalgic feel.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you think so. I think we thought so too. Just capturing that feel more than being restricted. So that was the hope.
Very cool. Do you have another question?
I have another question. At what point during development, like was it during the Kickstarter or after the Kickstarter, that you guys just like looked at each other and were like, wow, we're making something big right now. Like people really, really like this for some reason. Like when did that like fully sink in for you guys?
Well, when we first hit our goal and we came up with those stretch goals, we put our last stretch goal at $200,000 because we thought there is no possible way that we could ever reach that high. And when we blew past that in the last week and we had to just make up these last few stretch goals, we were like, what's going on? We were shocked that it was getting received so well, that things were happening, and eventually we got even closer. We're like, okay, maybe we'll hit 250, but there's no way. There's no way we hit 300. So let's just make the 300 stretch goal be the craziest, most absolutely insane stretch goal there is. And that was the all boss knights playable in the battle mode that we had already hit. And when we blew past that, we were just like, all right, whatever, anything at this point. And so we've been really just shocked that this was like a big thing at that point. And then during release, it's been just like really crazy positive reactions from everybody, and that blew me away for sure. It was critically received really well, and then just like really personally, it resonated with a lot of people to the point where they're like giving us messages like, Shovel Knight, I played it with my son and it let me connect with him in a way like it brought me back to a 10-year-old state, and now I'm playing with my 10-year-old kid, and we're bonding on a level we'd never had before. And it's like, get an email like that. It's like, how in the heck did that happen? We just made a dumb game that it's fun to play, but it's a personal experience for some people, and that has been really just like emotionally touching, on so many levels. So I would say it's been a roller coaster throughout the whole thing, but definitely during those 2 points in production.
I'm not going to spoil anything in the interview, and you can cut this out, but when I saw the ending of Shovel Knight, I teared up. Me and my boyfriend were playing it, and he even teared up.
Oh, man.
He goes, "You're my shield knight."
Aww. Aww.
So.
Oh my God, that's adorable.
Yeah. No, it definitely plucked at my heartstrings a little bit, and it was a really wonderful game.
Well, that's awesome. I'm so glad that happened for sure.
Yeah. On another note, back to the interview questions, I have a kind of some generic questions about your crowdfunding experience. It sounds like you guys had an overwhelmingly positive experience with crowdfunding. How did that? I know there's some ways that crowdfunding directly influenced the game, and would you crowdfund for another game in the future?
Yeah. So. I mean, the Kickstarter and the development of Shovel Knight are pretty synonymous. There was not a lot of time before the Kickstarter that we had something running. We made it for Kickstarter. That demo was when we showed that demo video off. That was all we had. When we showed the demo off at PAX, that was built for PAX, but also knowing that we would be sending that out to other YouTubers and Twitch streamers and stuff to play the game, to kind of promote it for the Kickstarter's purpose. And ever since then, we've been in constant interaction with the backers and with the to various degrees of involvement. Some people donated to be in a tier to join our design sessions, and so we had live stream sessions where we would come in with a real problem of we need to design the boss for Tinker Knight, let's all talk about it. And so we would sit down in a room and we'd have a whiteboard and we'd write up ideas and be interacting with the chat. And so that was it's a very involved session. Even up until the $1,000 backers were able to add a boss or an enemy into the game. And so we worked with a couple of guys to get that going. And then even beyond that, we're just constantly answering messages and interacting and going on the comment board, and it's a very involved process. That's something that I've never experienced before, and I would say it impacted positively, and it had a lot of feedback, but it also was just a lot of time sink, and so it drew away from other tasks, and it was constantly a stress of having to be beholden to these people from the very beginning. Usually, when you do a game, if you're working with a publisher, the publisher or the company like that hires you will give you the game idea, you give the pitch, and then you work towards milestones. And then once the milestone is done, then you move on to the next milestone. And the game isn't announced almost until the game is completed. And at the difference here is that the game was announced before there was anything. And so for like a year and a half, we were just living with that interaction that we never had to deal with before. But overall, having that community in the beginning was really exciting. It was really fun, and it was really great for us to kind of interact on that level that just, again, hasn't been done before for us. Usually the publisher or whoever is in charge of that, and they don't want you going on live streams. They don't want you jumping in Twitch and talking, because that's their job. They want to do that. And so it was really, really cool to do that. But again, it's a lot of work. So would we do it again? It's hard to say, because Kickstarter, like I said, it's a big investment of just time and energy and effort. But at the same time, it's also a very unique way to gain a community and gain a lot of people that are like evangelizing your game for you, and it's very effective. And there are those that are in it for the Kickstarter ride, and once the Kickstarter's done, they're kind of out. They're there for the highs and lows of the actual Kickstarter event, and then there are those that are there for the entire production of the game. And so it's a very involved thing when you have 15,000 people watching you. And so I'm not sure if I would do it again, but I think so. Maybe in a less capacity. Maybe do one that's not as stressful for us, but more engaging with the people that are wanting to support us.
Yeah, because this one was very involved.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, very, very. Actually, and offhand again, this probably had some of the most involved like perks of any Kickstarter I've seen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Sure.
Like
it was. Yeah, we wanted to make sure that we weren't just giving things out. We want people to be engaging with us, and so we have the design hangouts. We have the you get to make your own thing, and you get to find out a secret in the game that only you know. So yeah, we definitely wanted more of the community interaction, less of the just like here's a bunch of shit or stuff.
Yeah, T-shirts and hats.
Yeah. Foam shovel.
Right. But no, really cool. So.
I've kind of going back on the you developing like the levels and the bosses. What is it like developing like a boss, like developing Polar Knight or Tinker Knight? Like, what do you go in with, like the balancing, the speed of them, the damage? What is it like developing an iconic boss of like the NES era?
So yeah, it's very slow. I know that sounds weird, but there's a lot of time put into just iterating on all the concepts there. So like you said, there's a lot to think about how much damage he's doing, because he's placed in a different part of the level, or in like at his level, maybe like later in the game. And so you think, what's the challenge level that the player is ready for at this point? How we prepare them for this? So like the design of the character and stuff happened for a long time ago. Polar Knight was one of the first guys we announced, but he was one of the last guys that we actually worked on to get him into the game. And the design for the theming, is really important. We had the idea for these bosses based just on the phrase. Like we wanted an ice guy, we wanted a scary ghost guy, and we wanted like maybe a guy who does fire, but maybe he's also a mole. Like he tries to outdig Shovel Knight, and so we had these phrases, and those became drawings, and those became sprites, and those became illustrations. But that all happened for a while, and then once you have the theme and the character is strong, then we try to figure out like, okay, Polar Knight's kind of stoic and a loner, but strong and resolute. He's in the ice and the mountains alone, and so from there we figure out what the boss attacks would be. Maybe he shovels snow at you because he's got the snow shovel. Maybe he also has spikes, and because it's more dangerous. It's a higher stakes. He walks slow. Like all the theming of who he is kind of influences the attacks, but the attacks need to work on their own. And so we have this giant list of ideas, and then we just kind of choose ones that fit best, both the theming and also the gameplay. And eventually, you get a boss that's first playable, and then you try it out, and it doesn't work, and you got to retool it and refigure it out, and the spirit of the ideas remains, and eventually you get a boss that you find in the game today. So yeah, it's a lot of time, a lot of iteration, going back and reworking old ideas.
Now, what are you?
I was gonna say, are there any scrapped bosses that didn't make it that you could share with us?
Not really. The bosses were all conceived, like I said. There's a bunch of phrases to figure out for the bosses, and it's been so long since we figured out like the phrases of what the themes of the bosses could be that there's probably something, I don't know. There's probably something there. It's just so long ago that we can't remember.
Okay.
But we
Oh.
never brought a character even to concept art stage without really figuring out the team as a whole. And so, yeah, there's not really bosses. There was one idea for a guy who, like, when we were figuring out our Kickstarter board, one idea was for a guy that he used the names of the backers as an attack. Like the word would come across the screen, and like if it's lowercase, like the D's would be higher, and so he would have to like jump on the A to jump over the D and stuff. So
Oh
like
my
that
gosh.
that was like a basic idea. And he was donator night, and I did a little sprite for him, but that was like super basic, just like, hey, this would be funny if, and then somebody laughed and then forgot about it forever. So there's stuff like that all over the place, but nothing really involved.
Okay. Who's your favorite
Sadly.
knight? Who would you consider your favorite boss?
I guess I really like Spectre Knight a lot. His animations were a lot of fun to do. He's got a lot of cloth, and um, the way that he spins his scythe, he was just like super badass. It was just a lot of fun to do. I think Treasure Knight, for the same reason, he sticks some really strong poses. For whatever reason, I just like the idea when he shoots that cannon out, how he like arches his back and looks back like that. That just seemed like very energetic and into it for me. And he's a big guy that moves fast, so Treasure Knight and Spectre Knight are definitely my top two. Although they're all really great. I like Plague Knight a lot too. He's crazy and frenetic, and his stage has that explosion that goes into the distance. So I don't know. I guess those two.
Okay. Okay.
I'm gonna ask you just a few questions from Chatty, which is our
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 community.
website community, yeah. And so question one, Dusty Slim asks, what was the inspiration for Shovel Knight, the title character?
So Dusty Slim, the inspiration for the character was born of the mechanics for the game. We talked about way back in last January. We were talking about the down thrust in Zelda 2, and thinking if we could make a whole game based on that one mechanic. And more appropriately, we're also talking about, can we make a game around one mechanic just by itself? Just can we make a game that focuses on just one or two things like NES games did? You have a character that usually just has a jump and a shoot. That's Mega Man, and then everything else gets kind of complicated on top of that. And so from Zelda 2, we got the idea, if you're down thrusting, you're like, maybe you're digging through blocks, maybe you're hitting guys, you're flipping them over to like stab their soft underbellies, and that kind of like seemed fun and exciting to us. And but a sword didn't really fit that, and so we were just thinking about it, and then like the idea of a shovel came up as a joke, and people laughed. Like then we like thought about it, and like, yeah, that would actually work. Like that motion of like going down and then like flipping up. That's like an upward attack. That's sort of a shovel movement. So then like the idea of a knight came up, because we were like, well, would it be a shovel robot? And it's like, no, that's too much like Mega Man, and also that doesn't make sense at all. And so someone said like knight, and that started to make more sense. And then someone said like the shovel knight, the shoveling knight, and it stuck. And so we kind of just have gone on since then, from a conversation that we had at lunch, back in January. So it's been a weird ride, but that's never underestimate the conversations and the power of conversations I have at lunch. They're great.
Definitely. Actually, another off-camera thing, but Harry Potter was conceived on a lunch napkin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, look
So.
at
Lionel2B wants to know your favorite level. We already asked your favorite boss. So what is your favorite level? Is it also the Spectre level and the Treasure level, or?
I would say I like the Spectre level a lot more than the Treasure level, because I like the Spectre level because it teaches the player to really learn where the character is, even if they can't see him. So all that blackness that happens in the lighting areas, you have to just kind of like learn to feel where the character is. And I think it's really important for any platformer. And so it might feel like a difficulty spike after you finished it. You know where you are at all times, and you understand the gameplay at that point. So Spectre level is really good. I really like Tower 2. That level of difficulty is really fun. The second tower, what's it called in the game? Ascent, I guess. Yeah. Ascent is really fun in the tower stages. So yeah, I think those would be my top two.
Okay.
Mad Brahmin disease says.
Great names.
Yeah. Mad Brahmin Disease asks, are there any plans to bring the game to Europe or any other regions?
Yeah, we're actually working on those right now. If you go to our website, we put a blog post out about the international release status, and we are working on localization for the EU region right now. We want to make sure that when we put it in whatever region we put it in, that it feels at home. So, like, I don't know, when you think of Mario or Zelda, like, those don't feel like Japanese games. Those feel like just a game that you played as a kid because it's in your language and it's localized to you and you can relate to it to a certain level. So we want to make sure that Shovel Knight's the same thing. So like when it goes to Europe, you're playing it in German because you speak German and it's a German feeling game to a certain extent. I mean, I'm not totally sure on how effective that'll be, but at least it'll feel hopefully at home. And so that's the goal of getting it to Europe. We want to put it in Australia and Japan, and all of those things are happening and being worked on right now.
Okay, awesome. Enhanced Interrogator wants to know, are you sticking to retro-style games for the foreseeable future, or are all options on the table?
Yes and no. So like the immediate future is we are focusing just on the stretch goal content from the Kickstarter. So we have the challenge mode and gender swap and what were the other ones? Oh, the playable boss knights that you can play as. You can play as Spectre Knight and King Knight and Plague Knight. And then the 4-player competitive couch multiplayer battle mode with all the boss knights. Like, that's all major content that we're doing. Some of it's just for the art, and the gender swap, and some of it's just major gameplay tweaks. And so that'll be happening for the next year, hopefully less, but that amount of time. And but once we're done with that, I mean, anything is on the table. We love to do a 3D platformer. We would love to do a kart racer would be really fun. I don't know, like just games that would be fun to play. We aren't limiting ourselves to a pixel game. That said, we're a really small team, and so anything that we would do, we'd have to expand or change the team size or change who's here to make those things happen. We have some experience in 3D, but probably not enough to do a whole game. So yeah, everything is on the table, but at this point we're just focused on stretch goal content.
Okay.
I have a question. I mean, maybe this is my fault for not knowing, but gender swap, what is that? Tell me more.
Okay, so yeah, one of our stretch goals is the gender swap mode, and that is it's sort of vague at this point. The way that we're picturing it is it's just a big excuse for us to do art designs for all the characters, all the main characters. And so ideally, like I want to see it where it's like the character name and then like a little symbol for male or female, and you just choose. And so you just go down the whole list of choosing which one is which, and then maybe there's a randomized button at the bottom where you can just hit random and it just chooses whoever is whatever gender. The point being that it's just a fun way for us to redesign the characters and make it a sort of a fresh art experience.
Really cool.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
actually really cool.
I love that.
Yeah, it'll also change like the pronouns and stuff too. So like if it's a female, it won't be a him or whatever. So it'll be sort of involved, but I think it'll be totally worth it.
Definitely worth it. I think that's
actually that's.
Love that. Yeah.
On that.
I love that.
Cool. As you guys approved.
Yeah.
I've one more question from the chatty. It's also again Lionel 2B. He's getting a twofer. From all the weapons and the armors that you have in the games, were there some that were cut, or were there just like a lot of them? Did you have to think of more? Did you feel like there wasn't enough? Like, how was the process of that?
The process for coming up with the armors specifically was pretty. That was pretty intensive for sure. There because we wanted the armors not to just be like a defense boost, not just a stat boost. We wanted them to actually change the way you played, and so that's why we have like the magic armor, and that's why we have the armor that if you're scared of losing your stuff a lot, you get a bunch of stuff back. Or there's the armor that's more momentum based, and so you feel like it's like more of the Luigi style mobility to Mario. So there's a lot of the discussion about what those armors specifically were. We knew that we wanted the ornate plate, the armor that just makes you flip and doesn't do anything else from the beginning. That one was just fun for me to just do animations for. But the other ones were were talked about for a long time. I think there was one other plate that we had in there that just didn't work out, and I think it was synthesized into the one where you just get your money back. But like when you're making the game and ideas on paper sound great, sometimes they just don't work out when you implement them. So we cut things or like synthesize two ideas into one thing. The Chapel Pond used to be way more complex. There used to be I think 8 potions that we had, and you could choose between each one, and they all costed money. And we just found that nobody was going over there because it's just not worth it. And so we made them really powerful and free. And so there's something that you can just kind of bring in. And so that happened a lot as far as any weapons. I think there was ideas for more sub weapons, but ultimately where we landed was just with was it 12 or 10 that you can get right now. So yeah, like there's always like iterations that happen with the concepts of what you're doing in each gameplay object. So yeah, it's hard to say like one was just cut for arbitrary reasons, but they've all evolved over time, just like the rest of the game actually.
Awesome, that's great. That's it on questions on my front. Do you have any more questions, Samantha?
I have a question.
Joe
Do
has
you?
a question. Our lovely man in the sky.
My question is, what's that game that came out recently, Yoga Ventures, and how like they had like they made like 500K on a Kickstarter, and then they ended up like losing all their money and having to like basically cancel the game.
Oh, yeah.
And I just just because we were talking about Kickstarter earlier, and I thought it was interesting that like, how did you guys sort of manage all of this? Because now you had all this extra money that you sort of fell upon.
Yeah.
How did you end up managing all that?
I don't know. I mean, we've had experience doing games before we worked here. We had all worked at a company called Way Forward, and so we've done games for a long time. Our most recent game was like Double Dragon Neon, and we were basically the core team for that. And there's a lot of other people that worked there, but the 5 of us kind of decided to start our own thing as a result of that. So we've all shipped games, that is to say. So we have experience with the weird unknowns that happen during game development, and that's not to say that we're experts, but we kind of have done it before. Mm-hmm. And I don't know the status of the team behind the Yogscast games, but any team that's coming into it fresh, I don't know how they can do it with any of the budgets that are on Kickstarter. It's just crazy. And also any team that is working, like I've been on multiple teams where the game's just been canceled. Games get canceled sometimes. That's just the reality of the industry. And so it's the reality of what's happening there, I think, is more about like the public getting a glimpse into what's been happening for years. You know, there's just been a lot of, and when you make a game, there's a lot of moving parts, and everything is a moving part. There's people that, because you're relying solely on people and the whims of really creative, really passionate people. And the thing is with passionate people is they can be really passionate and pour everything into a game, and then something happens and they can't do it anymore. And so like there's, you can't rely on that totally. And so that there's just a lot of things that can go wrong. So there's a lot of opportunity for missteps. And to say that like they're horrible people for doing what they did, I think is totally just a misunderstanding of that this is just how games happen. And it's unfortunate because like a lot of money was put into that, and there's a lot of like that's a big perceived budget. But in reality, when you break down how that money is being spent, it's actually not a big budget. The budgets that are on Kickstarter right now are really small, and really I see them more as kickstarting budgets, like getting things off the ground. But in the end, you're having to sacrifice a lot of time, and there's a lot of time where sometimes a company won't get paid for a while based on a budget like that, or you're using the Kickstarter money and also getting outside investors because when you have a team of 15 or 10 or however many people expecting professional wages, that money drains really fast, and it's hard for, I think, the general public or for anybody who's not like done the professional endeavor on their own to understand that a company can burn through $50,000 a month and it be just normal operating procedures. People are expensive, so it's unfortunate that happened, but I'm not totally surprised. That is to say, I'm not like, it's not that I have anything against the people that were making that game, but it's just like that just happens in the industry for sure.
Wow. That's heavy.
Sorry to be up there.
Yeah. On that note.
to completely spin this on a lighter note. So, word on the grapevine is that you guys have about 300 cheat codes in the game. Let's talk about cheat codes. Cheat codes are fun and happy.
Yeah. What? Actually, that's good that you mentioned the cheat codes. Like, what inspired you guys to put that many cheat codes in the game, or to put them in at all?
Well, yeah, the idea was that yeah, we did. Those are all intentional codes for sure. The idea was for our $100 backers that you got a letter full of dirt, and it was a special thing that was a piece of dirt from the Shovel Knight land, and it's like this custom craft letter, and also came with that a secret code that only you know. And so the tier was called "Give Me the Dirt," and you got a special, just a one-of-a-kind code, and the idea was that one person was supposed to know that code and decide if they wanted to share it or not. And that's a reason, but the internet is what it is. They destroyed the ROM and took it out and pulled the codes out using actually, I think the way he did it was using brute force and just finding the hex values that worked. And so those codes are all like the unofficial codes, because there's two values that can be the same, that can result in the same hex value. So we haven't released the real codes out, but they're all the same. They all have the same effect. So that is to say, there's a bunch of codes out there that you can get and experience and practice with, and they're all a lot of fun. The one that's most famous is butt mode. That's the one that replaces a lot of the text with butt. So it replaces the word night and magic and health, and I think another one with the word butt. So anytime that Shovel Knight is talking to King Knight, it's Shovel Butt, and he's like, King Butt, you like, it's time to face justice, butt justice.
Oh my god.
all the nouns are butt.
Butt
justice.
I want that cheat code.
That code is X&BUTT. And if you put that as your name, it'll give you the cheat code prompt, and you can put it in your real name for the file. And so yeah, have fun with that.
That's great. I know what I'm naming myself now. Oh, that's fantastic.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I think we've taken up enough.
Yeah, I think we stole enough of your time.
Yeah.
Waz, thank you so much for spending some time with us
absolutely.
and talking about your game.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I definitely had a good time.
I had a butt of a blast over here.
Oh.
So, Waz, before we sign off, is there anything that you would like to plug before we go for our lovely viewers?
Yeah, sure. You can get the game right now. It's available right now. So if you wanted to, you can get it on the eShops for the 3DS and the Wii U. If you're in the North American region, again, it's coming to the European region soon. You can also check out our website, yachtclubgames.com, and we do blog posts and we post things there, and you can also buy the game there, so that's a cool place to go. Also, our Twitters, follow those, at Yacht Club Games, and if you want me, I do pixel stuff, so if you're interested in that at all, you can follow me, at Norkwaz, Norkwoz. And I think we also play games and stuff on Twitch, so you can follow us at twitch.tv/Yacht Club Games. And there's a bunch of other places that we're online, but those are the pretty big ones. Facebook, yeah. So yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, Waz, thank you again so much for having some time with us.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.